In this video, we're going to look at a complicated process that happens in dimensional modeling. And this example actually comes from SkillWave Training's Dimensional Modeling and Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy courses. And the specific issue that we're dealing with here is that we have a relationship between our builders table and our sales table, which is predicated on the builder ID. You can see the star here, which indicates the many side, which means we can have many repeating values of the builder ID here because we sell to the same builder many times. Meanwhile, on the builders table, every builder ID in this table must be unique. And that's the big piece that we've got to make sure that is really working here inside this model if everything is going to go well. So here's the challenge that we can run into. Right now, if we go and right click and refresh our builders table, at this point in time, everything is going to load just fine because we have a unique list of builder IDs in that table. But what happens when one of our builders, Blanca Carson, moves in with one of our others? So let's find out. We're going to add this to the data model. We're going to go right click. We're going to choose to refresh. And at this point in time, what we're going to see is that we're going to get an error. And there we are. We have a many-to-one relationship going on here. It does not like having many-to-many values, and therefore this will not refresh, and we're going to get a load to data model failed. Now, the question is, how do you fix this? And there are a prescribed set of steps that actually are required in order to make this work. Inside our courses, they take about 45 minutes to teach. That takes a long time. So wouldn't it be nice if there's a tool that could just fix this problem for you? And indeed there is. It's called Monkey Tools. Now, before we dive into this though, it's really important to recognize that our dimension table here must have a couple of date columns that indicate the date a record is valid from until it is valid to. This is okay if there are blanks in this column for the to dates, because we don't know how long these people are going to live at their individual addresses, but every entry must have a beginning date. If your table does not have these yet, you need to get them loaded to the data model before this monkey will be able to do the job. What happens if you've got your reload being blocked? Well, you're going to need to delete the relationship and then do some work in order to make things work. The earliest date in your data model is probably fine for your from columns unless you've got a reason to do otherwise. The to date, generally you're going to be able to identify those. But, again, if you're looking for today's date, for example, that might work. The big key here is that when we add our new record, notice how Blanca's record ends July 31st, and the next one kicks in the next day on August 1st. Now that we have all of this done, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the process of figuring out how we can get Monkey Tools to fix this for us. So to do this, we're going to go to our Query Monkeys, and we're going to look at the SCD2, or Slowly Changing Dimension Type 2 monkey. Now this monkey needs to do some analysis on your workbook at a very deep level to make sure it understands everything that's going on before it goes to take any action. And you can actually see a query running on the right-hand side as it's doing this job to figure out exactly what makes your model tick, how it's all put together, what types of data columns you're working with, and all that kind of jazz in order to figure out what it needs to know. Once it's finished its analysis, it'll pop up this dialog. Now, the main important thing to recognize here is that it's asking you for your effective dates columns. They don't necessarily need to be from and to as their labels, although it helps make things a little easier for the monkey to understand. But if you have something that's a start date, end date, that will work just fine as well. The big thing is, if we can't identify a from and to relationship in your tables, we will not let you move forward. So this is something that needs to be resolved before you can use this monkey. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to go and say next, and you'll notice that it comes up and it says, cool, all right, well, we know a little bit about your model based on our analysis. We know that you have a relationship between builder's ID and sales builder ID. So if that's not the right relationship, you can always choose it, and it will give you a list of all of the valid relationships that have those from and to columns in place. And in this case, there's really only one. If you had to break the relationship in order to reload your data for your table, well, at that point, you're going to need to create a new relationship, and you may have to map some of these columns a little bit more carefully. In this case here, we've actually identified, because the labeling are, from, and to, we know everything there is to know about this model. We've actually picked up the right fields for you automatically, which is pretty handy. So I'm going to go next at this point in time, and it'll now ask you, would you like to use surrogate keys with meaning or without meaning? Now, what this is all about is having something that allows you to trace a record between different tables. What we're going to create here is a key that is artificial that says for Blanca's first record, if you use a surrogate key with meaning, it'll be 43.1. If you see the second record, it'll be 43.2. And we're allowing up to a maximum of 1,000 changes if Blanca needs to move that much. If you need more than that, we'll definitely give you that option, but you might want to rethink how your model's working because it's probably not a slowly changing dimension. It sounds like it's changing much more quickly. If you want to go with keys without meaning, then you'll get a randomized number. So Blanca's first record might be 82, and her second one might be 97. It just makes it a little harder to trace. That surrogate key column needs a name, so we're going to provide one here. We've gone with LNK underscore builder ID. If you don't like that, you can always change it. Any blank end dates also need to be filled here. By default, we'll use today's date every time you refresh your model. That should always work. If you need a later date, you can also use a query result if you happen to have an end date in your model, or you can pull the latest date from a different table as well. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm now going to hit create, and I'm going to let the monkeys go and do their thing. So what you can see here is it's working through this process. It's created some new queries. We've got today, we've got some keys for our builders and bridge tables, and it is currently refreshing the builders table. And boom, there we go, we're done. 51 records have now been pulled into our data model. And just in case you missed that, let's go right click and refresh. And let's make sure that we can see that this really is now refreshing. Remember, originally we had 50 records. This time we've got 51. Perfect. That looks great. So now let's go and take a look at the data model. We'll hop back into Monkey Tools. Going to go to Manage Data Model. We'll open this up and we'll take a look in our diagram view at the relationship between the tables. Notice the relationship is now here, but instead of being predicated on builder ID, it's now predicated on link builder ID between these two tables. Now, the one thing that's unfortunate is that I can't hide this field from the sales table. I wish I could, so I'm going to go and do a quick hide from client tools on this. If Microsoft gave me the API, I would absolutely do that for you because it should have been hidden as it was hidden before. You'll also notice that the builder ID is no longer on this table. It's not useful to us here. We need to be working through this surrogate key, so that's what's actually been replaced here. As I say, this is a technique that takes approximately 45 minutes to teach people how to do this, and then you still have to go back and apply this to your own model. How cool is it, though, that we've got a slowly changing dimension monkey that, providing you have your from and to date columns in that builders table or in that original dimension table, you'll be able to actually leverage this monkey to go and do the work for you so that you can sit back and do something far more entertaining. That is the power of Monkey Tools. Thanks for watching this episode of Using Monkey Tools. To get your own monkey, visit our website at monkeytools.ca. Or if you subscribe to Skillwave's Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy, you'll get a free annual pro license included with your subscription. And remember, Monkey Tools was developed to support better Excel and Power BI solutions. If you want to learn how to really master these tools, you should definitely check out our full course catalog at skillwave.training.